Welcome back to another Post Media One-on-One. I'm Bruce Garrioch, pleased to be joined today by former NHL General Manager and Head Coach Doug MacLean. And Doug, as we speak to you today, the Senators are sitting in a playoff position and coming off a 5-2 victory over the Philadelphia Flyers on Tuesday night on the road. They're in the midst of a stretch of 7 games in 13 days. But let's start with the trade deadline. They made changes. And I think people were surprised by the decision to trade Josh Norris. His name's been out there a long time, Doug. I,
Forever.
I,
I
yeah,
mean,
I
you've had his name out there for 2 years, so you wanted
no,
him out
just
of
a
town.
year.
You wanted him
No,
out of
just
town,
no.
obviously.
That's not true. Yeah,
Obviously, it's the same with Senators management as it's always been. They always listen to you.
that's right. Yes, yeah. Smartest guy in the room. Just ask me. No, but do you think, Doug, when you look at the Josh Norris for Dylan Cozens trade, this is about getting this club to be harder to play against?
I think it was twofold. I think it was for sure. Look, Norris is a heck of a player. I think he's always been a really good player. But let's not kid ourselves. The injuries, especially when they're shoulder injuries, they scare teams. They really do. And that's not to take anything away from the kid because he's a big time talent, and he's potential 30 goal scorer. But I think it was the right move. The kid's name's been out there all year with Buffalo. A lot of teams would have liked to have taken a run at him. The contract obviously scared a lot of teams, but this kid has been a big time talent, and now getting with the young group in Ottawa, getting away from a losing atmosphere, I think the kid could really blossom. Let's not kid ourselves. Wasn't he a 30 goal scorer 2 years ago?
Yeah, yeah.
So this kid's got talent. And I heard rumblings that the Norris Kachuk combo, I know they're great friends. And I think sometimes you have to make changes in your chemistry. And I think this could be a real good change for the team.
Someone told me after that trade, a scout told me, Doug, that Cousins might be a better player with better players around him.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
You know what? I think it makes sense, but it also is the atmosphere of the group. And let's not kid ourselves. Ottawa are on the bubble of being a playoff team. And right now, with the way they're playing, they've got the inside edge. It's a big difference to go to Ottawa and have something really important to play for Cousins. To be a part of a group that gets a team in the playoffs after being out 7+ years, 7 years and counting, versus Buffalo that's going nowhere, and it's just not a pleasant place to be. I can only imagine how bad it is there. There was questions about him when the kid got ran over and he didn't respond to that incident. That bothered people, which I don't think it should as a young guy in the league. I don't think his responsibility is to be a tough guy, and at his stage of his career, sure, you want guys to stick up for teammates, but I don't think that solely is on his shoulders, to be quite honest. And I think he paid a little bit of a price for that. But I like the trade. I think Stales did a good job on this one. When you can get a kid that's that talented, and everybody in the league thought he had a chance to be a star, and now with this young group, he's got a chance to grow and blossom and become the player a lot of people thought he was going to be after his 30-goal season.
Do you also think, though, Doug? I mean, all we've ever talked about here for the last, I'm just going to say for argument's sake, 5 years is the core. Kachuk, Shabbat, Sanderson, Gregg, Pinto, Batherson. Um, I'm going to forget somebody. But all their young players, Tim Stützle, pardon me, I don't know how
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
forget him. He's the
yeah,
best of the bunch.
yeah.
But I, I just had someone say to me, you know what, maybe he was a little too comfortable around here. And maybe this was Steve Staios had to send a message that we haven't made the playoffs with this group, so it's time to change the mix.
Look, if you're going to send a message, Norris is a good guy to send the message with, because he was an
Makes
important
a
guy.
lot of money.
He
So
makes a ton of money, but not only that, he's been around the losing. Cousins, I know, is around the losing, so you've got to mix it up a little bit. You've got to mix it up, and I think comfortable people and comfortable situations, sometimes you've got to make it uncomfortable for people. Tkachuk finds it a little uncomfortable right now because his best buddy is gone and a guy that he really thought a lot of. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing Tkachuk, but I think the message is nobody is an untouchable here. And look, there's a lot of pressure on the Sens to make this right if they're going to keep these young players here. You know, you saw the rumors about Dahlin in Buffalo and how many guys wanted him. You don't want that situation in Ottawa. That's why making the playoffs this year is really, really important for the organization, for the new ownership, for the new management, but for the players more important than anybody. And if you don't do something at the deadline, that's not a good message to send. And I like it. That's why I like it so much. Plus the fact you got a good player.
And they also got Fabian Zetterlund from San Jose, who's a young player who people certainly I talked to people in San Jose, Doug, they are shocked that they traded this guy. 17 goals, 36 points, can play up and down the lineup, um, strong player. Uh, you know, I know you haven't seen much of him, but from what you've been told by other teams, they like him.
I'm getting the same message from people on deadline day that you did, that people love this guy. People love what he brings to the table. And again, it comes back to the same thing, mixing it up a little bit, putting some fresh blood in there, a guy that's an energy type guy that can still finish. So 2 solid additions. Now, if Allmark does his part, we know how well he's played recently. Can he get back to where he's supposed to be? This is the big signing, and it's been good and it's been ugly at times. So this guy has got to pull his weight now, and there's lots of pressure on him to do that. And I got to believe you walk in that dressing room right now, and there's a really good vibe in there, despite the fact that they all liked Norris as a kid. That's fine. It's bigger than Josh Norris. It's about improving the team to take a run at the playoffs that they desperately need.
But if you look at the way they played, Doug, it has they turned the page pretty quickly. You know, as we speak today, they've won 3 in a row since they made the trade. It's almost like, okay, they spent 24 hours upset and then they moved on.
What they've got to do now is they've got to become a more consistent team.
Yeah.
There's been a ton of highs and lows, and you talk to people, and when they get low, they really get low, and it becomes not a pleasant place to. We know how positive a guy Greeny is. Well, you've experienced that with your press conferences with him. You and him are like peanut butter and jam, the two of
Oh
you.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so I think the atmosphere around the group, but don't think that the goaltending isn't a huge part of that. If he can win them 48 saves recently, I mean, they need that backbone back there because they're still a young team and they're going to make mistakes. So you've got to have that stopper that's totally on top of his game. We know he's capable of it, you know, based on his contract. So look, I think they're positioned really well right now, and I like the fact they've got 34 wins, so they've got a chance to win the tiebreakers, and it may come down to that because these other teams aren't going to quit below them.
No. One team I did want to talk to you about because you're in Florida and spend a lot of time there in the winter. Wanted to talk to you about the decision of the couple of decisions the Florida Panthers made. One is the acquisition of Seth Jones, pardon me, and then we'll get to the other one.
But I want to make it very clear to your audience, and I know the type of audience you have. You know, make sure people know that I'm not a Trumper. Okay, just make sure you spread that word. I don't want to be in Bruce
you're
Arthur's column. I don't want to be.
uh,
I don't want. I want that known. Okay,
you're not going to Mar-a-Lago?
I'm not going to Mar. I have been to Mar-a-Lago. I have been to Mar-a-Lago, but it wasn't owned by Trump when I was there.
Oh my gosh. But I feel bad for Wayne. He's taking it on the chin.
I don't like it. I don't like it. So anyway, it's too bad. I'm supporting Wayne Gretzky because he's Wayne Gretzky to me, and he'll always be Wayne Gretzky to me. So I'm supporting him. But that doesn't mean I'm a Trumper.
And unlike Mario Lemieux, you might know who he is if you ran into him on a golf course.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I'm also not a Trudeau guy either. So I just want to make that, since we got the politics front and center
Oh,
today,
God. Where were we? We were going to talk about
we're
Seth
talking about
Jones
Florida.
when you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I like the Seth Jones edition. And I mean, look, how luckier that they made the move with this Ekblad situation. Ekblad has been really up and down. He hasn't been great at times. But for this to happen to this team, I mean, look, somebody was saying, well, Ekblad hasn't been very good and they're not very happy with him. I said, Ekblad was really, really good for this team last year in the playoffs. He played hard-nosed hockey for this team, and he was a grinder. I know he's not the first overall pick caliber still, but he still was an important guy. Jones is a good addition. Jones has never been the same player since he lost Werenski. When he was with Werenski in Columbus, he was a great player. Now in Florida, he gets quality people with him, which I think will enhance his game and make him an even more important guy for them. So I think it's a good move.
Well, and like you say, I mean, it couldn't have worked out better with the Ekblad situation. But the other guy that, once he's healthy, will be an important player is Brad Marchand.
How does this happen?
I wanted
Like,
to ask the same
seriously.
thing, Doug. Like, how do you not find a way to just make him a Bruin for life?
So somebody said there was a gap. There was a gap. And I said to somebody last week, I've had a gap in my two front teeth for my whole life, and I've been able to live with it and, get through it, And it hasn't affected my looks that much. And
No, you're
they had,
still a good-looking guy.
oh, and they had a gap that they couldn't close. Are you kidding me? They made a decision. They wanted to go buy Marchand. They wanted to change the team and change the chemistry. And I am blown away by it. I really am. I'm shocked by it. I know what he's meant to the team. I'll never forget Sean Corrali when he was playing for the Boston Bruins. And I mentioned to him one time, Sean's a Columbus kid, and I've known him since he was 8 years of age. I said, Sean, tell me about Marchand. What's he like as a teammate? He said he was the best teammate he's ever had in his life. He said the rookies come in to Boston, and when you make the team, you are not a rookie anymore. You're a Boston Bruin, and you get treated like gold by Brad Marchand. Supportive, a leader, leadership. So that's why it's a little disheartening for me. I hope Brad gets a chance to win another Stanley Cup.
It's just, I you can make. They handed him the C when Bergeron left. I mean, how do you? I guess when you talk about gap, how do you not just give the guy what he wants?
Yeah. Here's the other thing that bothers me. They paid everybody else. They paid Swayman. They paid Pasternak. They paid McAvoy. They paid all the guys. Okay. And all of a sudden they get to their captain and their heart and soul guy and they can't bridge a gap. Like, come on. Everybody else got paid and got paid really well. And was he being greedy? I don't think he was. I think he just wanted a fair deal. And it's a little disheartening. I remember when I was a GM and president, and I traded Luke Richardson at the deadline. And it really bothered me because Luke was a captain for us, quality guy. I really appreciate everything he did for us. And it was a move because we weren't going to win. We weren't going to win. And it bothered me. And I can't imagine being in a position to move a Brad Marchand for what he's done for the Boston Bruins.
Brian Murray told me when you guys were in Florida, was it when he moved Ray Whitney that he thought it cost you guys your job, your
No,
jobs? Was it Ray
it,
Whitney or
it,
was it
Stu Barnes.
Stu Barnes? Yeah.
So Stu Barnes got traded, and I'm driving home from the rink, and Clark, my son, was 9 years of age, and I
And
phoned.
why did you move him? Maybe.
Well, Chuck Fletcher had his nose in there a little bit, and Chuck thought we were too small down the middle, and we wanted this to become bigger. And Chuck he really thought Brian wanted to be bigger too down the middle, and that's what because we'd gone to the Stanley Cup the year before, and we thought if we
Right.
get a little bigger down the middle, it would help. And Brian was right. So I phoned Clark on the way home, and I said we traded Stu Barnes, and he said for who? I said Chris Wells. He said he was 9. And he said, are you guys crazy? He was 9 and he thought we were crazy, you know. So then I'm on the phone, and Wayne Meyer was our Western scout. He said, "Oh, Doug, you're gonna love this guy we got for Stu Barnes, Chris Wells." I said, "Chris Wells, yeah, Doug, he's 6'4". You're gonna love him. He's gonna be your next captain." So then I meet Wayne Meyer a few months later out in Western Canada, and I said, "I
Was
obviously
that
you."
when you were looking for a job?
No, I was still working. I said, obviously, you think I'm going to be coaching in the East Coast League if he's going to be my captain, because it sure as
Oh,
hell won't be the NHL. Anyway, we
oh,
ended. So it was and we traded Jason Woolley in the same trade.
oh
Like
my gosh.
anyway,
No,
it was a tough day, but Brian and I, we chuckled about it after, but oh man, it was a dreadful
no,
move, and it was
no.
a dreadful move. But hey, Brian Murray made a lot of great trades for the
Oh
Flames.
yeah, no, but I always
A lot of
remember him
great
telling
trades.
me. No, but I wanted to ask you because I always remembered him telling me that story that he always felt that trade cost him his job.
Yeah.
That
And look,
deep down.
Chris has been a
eh,
great guy. I think he still lives in Florida, and I think he's really good with the alumni. Maybe that's why they got him. I don't know. It sure as hell wasn't a play.
we have to finish out with because I can't have Kipper on here, okay? Because he works for the Star.
You
You know,
don't
he
want
writes a
to. I
column
mean,
for the Star.
come on.
But
I have to go on with him
and you make
every
his show every week, so this is why I'm having this is
like
why I'm having you on
for 4 years, and
for
I've
nothing.
enough already. Find somebody else to fill in for me. Leave me alone.
Anyway, where were we? I have to ask you about Mitch Marner because I said this to you yesterday on the phone, so it's not something we haven't discussed. But if you ask, I ask you this, and I just for people watching, if you ask a guy Doug to waive his no move clause, you're far down the road, aren't you? You aren't doing that. Just saying, hey, we got a call from Carolina, right? Like you have worked at a trade, haven't you?
Look, they were really in on Rantanen. There's no denying they wanted Rantanen bad, and it was to help them win this year for sure, which he probably would have done. Imagine him and Matthews or him and Tavares or whoever he's with. He's going to be a real good player. I think this guy needs a big time center with him, like McKinnon and Landeskog. When they were together, they were golden. Carolina looked like a different player, but but you're asking Mitch to waive his no move, and he's got 2 months left till he can go anywhere he wants.
Yeah.
And he's a Toronto kid. I know it makes sense if you think you can get Rantanen, but Mitch Marner is not going to waive it. Darren Ferris. Imagine what Darren Ferris said to that comment. They want us to move our no play. I mean, they would have fell off their chair listening to that. So it was a waste of energy. And now they got Mitch, and where's he going to go? I looked the other day. I think Pittsburgh got 26 million in cap space. I got to believe they're going to be in the hunt for him, and
Chicago,
100%.
Utah.
Yeah.
I said this the
So
other day. I believe he wants somewhere between 12 and 14 million is
yeah.
what they're talking about.
Well, he's going to
You
want the
know,
same as Rantanen or close or better. But
yeah.
look, so Mitch is saying, I'm not going to now all of a sudden. I mean, it caught me off guard. I mean, look, and Carolina couldn't get Rantanen signed. Were they going to make a trade for Marner? You think they're going to be able to get Marner signed? Not a snowball's chance. They're getting Marner signed.
Well, I guess one thing I would ask you though, Doug, is will you have a motivated Mitch Marner now, or will you have a mixed up Mitch Marner the rest of the way? Or like I guess that what you can't read a player's mind, but what will his mindset be? The last question.
I would think that picking up Carlo and Lawton, who to me is a third line center. I watched him the other night. He did not play very well. He made me real nervous watching him the other night. How he played for Toronto. So hopefully he gets it going and he can be a third line guy. I got to believe that Mitch Marner is saying, hey, I'm going to do whatever I can to help Toronto win a Stanley Cup. I've got to believe that's where his head is. I know it's ringing a little because he hasn't been signed, but that's been his doing a bit too. So, I mean, how can they not be motivated? Because if he and Matthews and Tavares fall short again and Nylander falls short again, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. They've got to go a couple of rounds deep, or it. Mitch will. Well, he's going to be out of there anyway, in all likelihood. But this group, there's going to be trouble if they don't win, and it ain't going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. They got the goaltending. We hope. I think they're going to be a pretty good team. Their defense is a lot better. Their goaltending is better, but it's still going to come down to the big boys. Can they put up some points in the playoffs?
Well, and I said this to the guys the other day. I could see if they fade again, another guy to keep an eye on is Morgan Riley
Oh
because
yeah, 100%.
you
My
know.
dream series is Ottawa and Toronto. That is my dream
Oh, that's the
series.
dream here in Ottawa too. Believe me.
that that would be
Oh
the
yeah,
the
that would be
consummate.
fantastic.
Who's the guy, young, the great enforcer you guys had there for so long that's still around, and I see him all the time. But
Chris
tough.
Neal.
That would be Chris Neal's dream, to be
Oh
able
yeah.
to yell from wherever he's sitting at those Leaf players and scare
Oh
them.
yeah, and Alfie and Greener behind the bench. Are you kidding me?
So
Come on.
that's one of my dream series.
All right. Well, listen, we really appreciate you joining us today. I know you're only 20 minutes from Mar-a-Lago, but I know you're not a Trumper, and in your heart, you just want to make Prince Edward Island great again.
Yeah, exactly. Now, look, I just have to tell you how much I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to be on your show. I really enjoy it, and thank you so much for thinking of me. Not many people think of me anymore, but I appreciate it.
I feel sorry for the aging.